Welcome, everybody. I think to start,
Big welcome. So, welcome to our podcast, the Painters Off the Tools podcast. Here to help you guys scale and really talk about our journey and our painting businesses and how we can help you guys do the same. So, welcome.
yeah, I think Jimmy and I found through running our own companies in the painting space that the best things to do were from other people telling you what to do. Like oftentimes, like your big creative genius idea isn't the one that's gonna totally revolutionize the business, but rather the things that have been working. And I think Jimmy and I were both like super fortunate to be in that position. So Jimmy, you want to start us off? Maybe give the audience a little idea on maybe like where you started, how you got into the painting space to begin with, and then how that led you to here today.
I would love to. So, 100%. So, how I got started, funny enough, I didn't have a job for the summer of university. So, kind of went to my
Nice.
cousin and I was telling him about it. Like, I want to stay in London, Ontario. So, not UK, unfortunately. And I guess his roommate overheard and she was running her painting business. So, she overheard, I did the interview and ended up getting hired. So, I actually started as the, you know, actual painter on the tools, like carrying the ladders, doing the painting, everything while she ran the actual business. And then, learned a ton, realized there was a great opportunity for me to run my own business the following year because she was moving on to do something else. And signed up, became an owner for my painting business in South London. And from there, it was like we got all the coaching and learned how to, basically run a business by actually being thrown into running a business from scratch. So never, like, besides the year before, I've never painted, didn't know anything about that. And we learned how to market your business, all the free ways, all the paid ways, how to actually put that into your business. And we learned on the go. So there was tons of no's, messing up, and that was fine because that's how I ended up learning. And then ended up learning the sales side. Had a great mentor Luke. So he taught me everything he knew. He ran his
The
business for
goat.
years. Absolutely. So did the sales, then learned how to hire the right painters and also run the business without actually having me as the painter anymore, which was tough because that's all I knew from the year before. I painted like on every job. So all of it's there. And then learned that we can delegate that and I had better things to do. So I focused on just the sales side. And it was definitely challenging for the first year. And then stayed with them. So ended up running the business. And then after 2 years, the third year, I actually got, called up to be a district manager. So was able to coach 3 students to run their own businesses from scratch. And then eventually here we are. So we were able to figure out that like, this is the knowledge we know. And there was a little bit of a leeway where I ended up joining a program, a consultant program for contractors specifically. So learned a lot there, how to like consult and also help contractors in all niches. And then
Mm-hmm.
finally, after speaking with a bunch of other contractors, hearing their goals about they're building something for their, for their families, for themselves, for their legacy and generations, then I decided I need to go back and start a business because that's always where my heart was. So where to? Marketing seemed like the best fit. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how Josh and I became partners. We were also,
Launch Point Media, baby.
there we go. And we were also roommates before. So,
That's right.
and then here we are helping residential painting contractors like ourselves to do all the things in their marketing to make sure they have plenty of work so they can focus on
Mm-hmm.
other things in their business. So that's
Yeah,
what we're doing.
Jimmy, do you mind if I ask a question here?
Yeah, please.
What was it? What was it like for you? I know what it was like for me, but essentially that first year running your business, the way that the franchise, taught us to, I guess, produce our work was you had that preseason, your January to March, May, whatever, but then you only produce the work come, May. So what was it like selling the projects without ever having, run a job site before?
Honestly, it was challenging to begin with, and I think I had a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of an edge around there where I painted the year before, but a lot of people didn't and were
Mm-hmm.
just strictly into the business. But learning like how to do the sales, it's all systemized, right? You have to start with
Mm-hmm.
getting all the different ways of generating leads to make sure you have enough to actually do the sales part, right? If you don't have leads, you can't do the sales, can't book the jobs. So getting enough leads, setting up the phone calls, setting up the estimates with them, that's just a part of the battle, right? Then you have to go there, do your estimate with them, build a rapport, and also objection handle, sell the job. It's never just an easy yes, right? We got to go through and see if it makes sense for them, for us to take on. And I knew I was going to take care of them no matter what, be in communication. So I was confident there to like really make sure I take care of my clients moving forward. And then, never like sold a job before, but moving into it, it's like taking one step at a time. That was the most important part of the business, to have work for my painters coming into the summer.
So if you looked at, I guess, Jimmy at January, we had this thing called January training where they'd essentially, bring us through a whole bunch of different routes around the business, everything to do with marketing, everything to do with sales, whatever. And they'd essentially teach us for 2 days and then more or less go, have fun, guys, go run your goddamn business, which is awesome. So if you had to say, what Jimmy looked like, maybe sales come, January 15th to Jimmy come sales June 15th, what was like that difference in that first 6 months for you?
Yeah, first started, I sucked. Like reading a script, like just felt robotic, didn't feel like myself. And obviously it's the first few calls, right? Like that's fine. Didn't know it at a time, but as I did it more and got out there, got more leads, door knock, talked to other people, it built up my confidence. And I didn't want to give up, right? I wanted to keep on going, push so I can have enough work for my painters. And then come like, May, when we started production, it was like so different. Like you learn so much by almost like being thrown in the deep end. We definitely had our mentors to help us go through it, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
No, for sure. What would you say, like, and I guess where I'm trying to get at here is like, where would you say, again, that January 15th to June 15th thing, like what were you doing differently by then?
Like more so like the sales side of things, or just how?
Yeah. When we're showing up to an estimate, like obviously you said, it's, a little bit of uncertainty, those, first couple estimates, if you will. And then obviously, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 estimates down the line there. It's like, what was those big things that you really started to change as you started to get that information? You know what I mean?
100%. I think just becoming more of that expert or like authority, being able to show the clients that I knew my stuff, and like going through the estimates, like just basically educating them, right? Like sometimes it was the first time they ever got a painting project or had bad like experiences before. So I wanted to be the very best to like give them like what they were looking for, to take care of them, give them suggestions. And yeah, I think the biggest part is just having that expert frame to be able to educate your clients. And in return, that was when, funny enough, because you knew your stuff and you were going to take care of them, that's when you book the jobs and they trust you over somebody else, even if you're not the cheapest or the most expensive.
And especially when we're in like early 20s too, and it's like you have like more or less this kid showing up at your door asking for literal thousands of dollars and a signed authorized agreement. It's like you kind of have no choice but to be that expert, because if you show up as nothing less, your 45-year-old weather body isn't going to do the knowledge of the talking, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Love it, dude. I guess just a little background on me. I was actually approached to get involved with that first franchise probably 2 years before I did. And I kept on saying, no and no and no, because I honestly had no interest in business or money, which was super weird. And money's awesome. This is true. But what's even better, I think, is like everything else that I got out of it. And eventually that second year I said, okay, like I'll give it a shot. So I ran the franchise for 3 years, then ran my painting company for 2 years after that, and then went on to run our agency kind of as it stands now. I think where I really learned just advertising and marketing in general was that wolf in sheep's clothing that was like COVID. And, our main lead source was door knocking. And as you can imagine, door knocking during COVID wasn't exactly the most well received. And don't get me wrong, I still did it. and you'd have people yelling at you, and I try to be respectful. I'll wear my mask. I'll wear a glove when I'm touching their doorbell, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. But that's where I learned to do online marketing, because truly it was such an amazing time to even be doing marketing, because where was everybody? Stuck at home looking at their phones.
Can
So
I say
cost
something?
per
Can I say something real
yeah,
quick?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like for us, and I know you're the exact same way. It's like what a great way to look at it, where we were like, hey, this thing happened. It was a pandemic. Like people are locked inside,
Mm-hmm.
and we, instead of being like, hey, we could just sit there and wait it out, or just do nothing. Like we actually created a
Mm-hmm.
game plan to still do this and find a way to actually do it versus like just sitting around doing nothing. So super grateful, glass half full type of people. So yeah, that was fantastic.
And I mean, like, and truly, it should be noted that, when this happened, a lot of the people, in our franchise, other franchise owners just stopped running their business.
Yeah, they panicked.
They chose to take, that path of least resistance, and there's no blame associated with that by any means, because what a precarious time to even be alive in general. But it's like there was a way out, and I learned to run ads around then, again, just because it was the time where everybody was seeking their attention to their phone. And then went on to use that as the backbone of my business, the basically 3 years and the 2 years after I left the franchise. Just because, like, be completely frank, maybe I shouldn't say this, I wasn't the biggest fan of door to door. I think it works super hardcore, and you can develop teams, and it can be delegated, and you don't even have to do it, truly, if you set it up correctly. But I also know there's other avenues, which is really how it led us to do this for other companies now, because we recognize that other people don't recognize that there's other ways besides just knocking on doors.
100%. I was going to ask you too, because like for all those listeners that think like, hey, they're only going to stick to word of mouth, or maybe they're doing some door to door and they only want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. There's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of agencies. There's like a lot of agencies don't even like help specifically one niche. Like they'll take on any work everywhere, like restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
doctors, and then painting. It's like, how can you really specify? So to
Mm-hmm.
them, like, what do you think difference is when you have like, let's say, social media ads, things like that, Facebook marketing, and versus like just door to door or just word of mouth? What do you think the difference is?
Well, I mean, the difference is more leads, right? I always, tell people, it's like, when you're looking at your business, you should have different facets of marketing. And it's like each of your facets of marketing typically are scalable. So let's say you have lawn signs. Okay, you get a bunch of lawn signs, you put them in the ground, and you put 10 lawn signs in the ground, and you get 3 leads roughly a month from them. Hey, buddy, I saw your lawn sign. I'm calling now. Fantastic. Okay, well, that's technically scalable too. You have 10 lawn signs in the ground. You put 20 in the ground. Now you're hoping that maybe 6 leads will come in. So I guess your question was like, what's the difference between just relying on word of mouth and using social media?
Yeah, or even like the difference between like only focus on like one thing like word of mouth versus like having multiple different things to fill the gaps, things like that, and how it
Well,
affects
that's
you.
the thing. So, like, when the lawn signs stop working, or you're no longer getting your 3 leads a month from your lawn signs, because maybe all of the attention that would have been captured in terms of getting a lead from that has, quote unquote, dried up. Well, now if you have Meta ads running, if you have Google ads running, if you're going to home shows, whatever, these things all sort of make up for each other, because, just like how the lawn signs have their really high months, where you're in June, it's peak seasonality, and you're getting lead a week from a sign. It's like, well, at the same time, once November rolls around and you're no longer getting any leads from your lawn signs, guess what's picking up? Your Google ads, your Facebook ads, and you're just trying to average out your lead count every single month.
Absolutely. And by the way, just to preface, like we're not saying like those things don't work. Like people that want to wrap their
No,
car, no, everything works and has pros and cons to everything. All we're saying is
for
like,
sure.
yeah, having multiple like fishing poles in the pond never hurts to catch more fish. So it's great to see
Hmm.
that in your business too.
So I guess for you, Jimmy, like why was it that you wanted to start agency for painters specifically? You talked about how like a lot of people are kind of like the generalist agency. Why did you want to niche down with me in terms of, just doing painting companies?
Yeah, I mean, big one, like, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love
we've
you
been
too.
friends for so long. But more importantly, of course, jokes aside, it's the place that I can give the most value. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer, and I'm sure, and I know you are too. Value first is always going to be the biggest thing. Where can I help somebody more and give more to them with all the things I've learned. And that break where I worked as a consultant for contractors, I felt like I basically left a lot of my skills on the shelf, and the things I learned, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't get to use this anymore, or like go bring this to other people's like businesses or help them with their like basically help them scale their business. And I was so passionate about that, and I was like, okay, I need to do the classic, like get out of the rat race, the 9 to 5, and really start giving value to people that I know I can. What better way to what better place to do it than painting, where we've been in the trenches, right? Been in the trenches. We've coached other students to do the same thing, and seeing like basically there's no guesswork, right? And then always improving on that. And it's like that was the thing that changed my life, running that painting franchise. So it changed my life. I definitely want to be helping other people change theirs as well.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. I mean, I feel like it's really easy to just get caught up in like what you're doing and not embark on, the journey you want to. Like, man, I do oftentimes like think of our client Evan, where he was working at Amazon and he wanted to, start his business, and like he was sure he wanted to do it because he knew like doing anything in business was the only way out of. I mean, it's so funny because like Amazon is like the business.
Yeah.
It's the business. And starting your own business is like the complete opposite of that. You go from the most systemized business on the planet to doing your own thing. And like that is such a scary part. And like if the people that are listening, like you're not even at the point where like you started the business, but are more just like curious about like what that looks like to be a painter, like not on the tool and running a business and not just mini rolling a door. It's like this is a really good window to that because I think it should be noted even as well. It's like when you're starting a business, it doesn't mean you're doing the labor, and I think and honestly, folks, that's what this whole thing's about, right? It's like this is the Painters Off the Tools podcast, and it's okay, I guess, to start, figuring out how to do a cut line, how do I roll a wall, whatever. But it's like you're busy developing those skills while the skills that you actually need to develop to scale your business are not being attended to.
And that's where everyone gets stuck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like when I was in running my franchise, it was like I had painting experience. Honestly, looking back now, it almost was kind of like a little crutch, because it was
Yep.
like I would want to jump in, right? I had to learn like how to not micromanage and not like actually go in. So the people that never even held a paintbrush, they actually did have a little bit of a one up.
Me.
Yeah, well there you go. Yeah, there you go. One
Yeah.
up. Because the whole point and the big thing I learned was you're supposed to create such a badass team that they're going to be a better painter than you. They're going to be a better
Mm-hmm.
like marketer than you, right? You're going to change their life, and you're going to add those skills for them. And some people, even I've heard some people ask like, "Oh, but Jimmy, like what if they leave?" Right? Like what if I teach them all this stuff and they leave? Then good, right? Like you change their life for the better, and they
Mm-hmm.
won't leave you if you have everything, paying them well, you have the systems in place, you're not overstressing them because there are systems, right? People leave if you're not a great leader, and also like if you don't have systems in place in your business, or if you don't have enough work, right? And if they do
Mm-hmm.
leave, you should have a system for like hiring and have that figured out, so that if they do leave, great, I can just go train another person, right? Even if they do start their own painting business or whatever it is. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely
But
a value
bunch of things come to mind there. I'm going to go aheed and out myself real quick. Episode 1 here.
add.
Um, I've never painted a complete room in my life ever.
Yeah.
Like I can show you a bang and cut line, and I can show you how to roll out your lines when you're using a roller. That's it. but it's like, I promise you though, in March last year when we did 100K in revenue, probably off like a 20-hour time investment per week from me, it's the skills that I was using weren't that I could do a great cut line or that I could roll out my lines when I was using a roller. The skills I was using is I knew how to actively source leads and I knew how to close those deals.
100%. And I think to give some context, like knowing how to do a cut line or do the roller, like all the things in between, it's like, yes, we still train our painters. We don't just throw a random person in there. Like, no, we train them to do these things. And I remember they're going to be out there working like 40, 50, 60 hours. And they're going to it'd be weird if they didn't get better, right? They should get better than you, not even like too far out or too long, because they're going to be the ones doing it. And your job is to generate enough work for them so you can keep them working full time, fed, because they also have their lives and families to take care of too. So.
No, for sure. Yeah, people just get so wrapped up in the skills that don't matter in business and like spend so much time on things that isn't actually moving the needle in terms of like scaling revenue. And I think it's like really easy to get like wrapped up in things that might be like perceived as like generating revenue. Like you might go to paint that room, for instance. And it's like, obviously I'm generating revenue, Josh. I'm completing the project that I booked. It's like, well, yes and no, you already booked that job. So the revenue's pretty much already generated as long as you cross your T's and dot your I's on this project. So you basically did the hard work, which was, finding the job, sourcing the job, selling the job, closing the job. And then now you're doing the physically harder work, which is not even required for scaling the business at all. But it's so easy to look at it as like, of course I'm generating. It's like, no, you're not. You're not generating revenue, dude. You're wasting your time.
Yeah. We hear it all the time. The roller coaster of, hey, you don't have any work, so you get work. Oh, then you're the one painting, so you don't have time to go find work. Right. And then you found some work. Now you're back up. Right. But it's like, again, the whole point is to not be a painter, right? You're running a painting business, and whatever you can do, like maybe you get like a referral. Maybe you have, the current projects, their aunt wants paint. That's great. Great stuff. Like you have the trust and stuff. But again, it's like as you're painting or as you're door knocking, you don't have other ways of generating leads. Like, for example, from like Facebook to help add on top of that, where you're doing other things and it's able to, fill the gaps for you. So 100%.
Yeah, and I feel like probably like one of the first things that pops to people's minds when they're like, okay, like great, Josh and Jimmy, I hired this crew, and what if now they walk off the job? I got one crew, let's say it's a $5,000 job. They produced half of it. Whatever happened, now they're not there. What happens then? Do I just not complete the project? But it's like you should always have a backup plan too. And it's like even if you're using subs, it's like a lot of people have like one sub that they go to and they go, this is the work. But it's like if you don't have a backup sub, it's like, man, well, again, what happens if they walk off the job? And like even further from there, it's like, okay, what if I have a crew and one of them walks off? Well, it's like, well, that's why you put two people on a project, because then there's still somebody to keep on doing the job.
100%.
And
there's like, we were taught 1 in 6, 1 in 10 are great painters. And it's like, you got to have like your bench, right? The best teams in sports, they don't have just the players on the field, court, or whatever. It's like they have a bench. They have like third string so that they have them ready. And it all comes down to expectation setting with people that you bring in. So we can get into that at a different time. There's just so much to unpack. But yeah, I would love to hear, Josh, like around, why you wanted to start a marketing agency for painters yourself.
For me specifically, it's pretty evident because like marketing and sales, for that matter, and more marketing than sales was always my strong suit in my business. And it's like, so you're telling me I can do what I'm best at, my business, for other people and make up for other people's lack of skill sets? It's like, what a easy way to enter the market on a strong suit of what I have, and just like, it's a tough one because one of the questions that I get when we sit down with painting company owners and they hear like, my story, and they go like, okay, so you ran a painting business. Like, yeah, so can I have a marketing agency for painting companies? It's like, why did you stop the painting business then? What's it about that? And it's like, everyone has different ways that they see impact in the world. And like, truly, like, one of the best feelings ever is, you finish that $15,000 exterior, and, wow, voila, like that is such a gratifying moment when you step back, last touch up is done, and you go, holy, like that. And that's like truly like, improving the infrastructure of the world is noble in itself. But for me personally, it's like impacting people's lives, increasing the revenue in their businesses. It's just so gratifying for me, especially because I feel confident in it.
I love it. I felt the same way, right? Like there's times where, the clients come out, they're like, wow, like, this is so great. Like you have your before and afters. The clients are like bringing you food and like bringing you like drinks, and you're protecting their home, or you're just getting them what they want. And they're just so happy. And I think there's more to it. Once the game of business is like, you're always going to be climbing to that next big thing. Especially around like, okay, what can you give the most value? And then also you always got to be forward thinking. So I totally get that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's our time, Jimmy. I know it's flown by. We did start this at 3 o'clock, and it's 3:30 here. If you guys are at all interested in, what it is that we do, we really tried to take this, episode as like an introductory on like who we are, where we've come from, and why we've done it. But if you guys are interested in, what it is that we do specifically and how we might be able to help your business, we'll definitely make sure to leave some links down below. But I guess keep crushing, Jimmy. Final words.
Yeah, always look for help, and don't be afraid to reach out for more like help and stuff around that. So this was fun.
Jimmy says, ask for help, please help. Jimmy says, please help. Awesome.
Stop the bleeding.
Okay, that's right. Stop the bleeding when you can. Put on the Band-Aid. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one.